What's up, guys? Today's video is not going to be on Tekken. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry if that annoys you and you were really looking forward to more Tekken content today. Don't worry, there is stuff that I'm editing right now that I think is going to be really nice, that is going to go up within the next 24 hours, I hope. So look forward to that. But in this video I just want to do something a little bit different because I've gotten some questions over the last week or so about, you know, why I'm living in Japan and what I'm doing here and how that happened, and whether or not, you know, I have some like tips for people who might want to try and make that journey themselves. I know that a lot of people who are into video games and fighting games and, you know, the internet culture, there's a large subculture of people in the West who are you know, interested in Japan and maybe exploring this country. So I don't necessarily like talking about myself and things in videos. It's not something that's going to, you know, be happening a lot, so don't worry about it. But I just thought, because I want to reply to those questions and I would have to write quite a lot of text for the answer to have any kind of like substance. Instead, maybe I'll just make a video on it and talk a little bit about life stuff and what's been going on with me. And then hopefully that answers a lot of those questions well enough, and then I won't have to spend time, you know, going through individual comments and stuff. So it's going to be a little video about that. It's obviously not something that is super interesting for most of the people who come to my channel for like fighting game content, but you know, maybe you'll get something out of it. Let's just have like a little nice chat about life stuff for a while and see if anybody finds it interesting at all. But yeah, so what I wanted to do was like mainly talk about how I ended up kind of in the situation I'm in right now, and see if there's anything, you know, any kind of tip I could give anybody who might want to do something similar. The first thing I want to ask you, actually, before I go any deeper into this, is if you're interested in watching this video, or would you be interested in me making some content where I teach you how to like learn some basic Japanese? Is that something that people would find interesting? I've thought about for a long while I might want to make some basic educational videos and talk a little bit about learning languages, because I taught myself to learn a couple of different languages over the years, and I think that's kind of another major life passion of mine. And I think there are certain ways of tackling specifically Japanese that are very helpful and good, and I think a lot of people unfortunately come at it from like the wrong angle. It's not their fault, it's just because of the way that education works, especially in this country. And you can end up wasting a lot of time if you don't come at Japanese from the right angle, in my opinion. So would you be interested in me just picking up, you know, some basic things about getting into the language and making videos on that, or would you prefer that I just stop talking about this stuff and just focus on making content on games? But just to get a little bit into like my own story, I mean, I grew up in Europe in kind of like a very typical middle-class lifestyle for the country that I was born in. And I had a very like nice upbringing. I'm not gonna, you know, say that I had a tough life or anything. You know, I had a very loving, very supportive, very beautiful family. I still do, luckily. But I did struggle with a lot of anxiety and at times depression, especially when I was young. And you know, when you're a kid and you feel panic anxiety and stuff, you don't really know what that is, and so it just becomes very confusing and very difficult for you. And that's, like I said, not because I had a tough life or anything. It's just because of the way my brain chemistry works and the way I'm set up biologically. And when I was about like 12 or 13, I think, I mean, this is a long time ago now because I'm an old man at this point, but it was kind of the early days of streaming on the internet, where people would like, you know, do streams on stuff. And I found a couple of channels that were streaming, you know, some old anime stuff. They would have like the complete series of things like Hellsing, and they would have complete series of like you know, romantic animes like Love Hina, which was big back in the day. And I just found that, you know, messing around with my computer, and it was kind of a little bit of an explosion in my mind at that point. I think the reason so many like Western kids especially get really into anime when they're young is you know, you watch entertainment for young people in the West, and it's like a big blue bear who needs to go to the market to, you know, buy a fish, and then he ends up befriending the fish and decides to go vegetarian or something. Like, it's not that's the kind of like bland, very almost censored stuff we get there, whereas in Japan, even like when you're a young kid, you're watching these animes of like a main character, he's like smoking a cigarette while kicking somebody so hard in the face that their teeth fly out. The girls have their tits out, they're wearing skimpy clothing. The music is super melodramatic, and it's made by actual like teen rock and pop bands, and has this like super dramatic very high production value. And so I don't think it's odd that that ends up becoming a little bit of a drug for a lot of people, especially people, you know, like me, or like, you know, video gamers, or people who might, you know, spend a lot more time indoors in front of a computer screen than, you know, out playing sports or socializing or anything. I mean, that's the reality I lived in when I was young, because these days I think anybody, any young kid, you know, has a relationship with the internet, with social media, even with video games. But, you know, 15 or more years ago, we were still in the age of the nerd, where a nerd was not something like cool. It was not like a hipster with like big glasses who, like, you know, plays Zelda and streams about it. It was more like being a nerd was very, very tough, because it usually meant that people weren't very nice to you. You didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and you might actually, you know, feel very sad and outcast about the way you were living your life. And of course, like when you trip over something like Japanese pop culture at that age, I think it can be very impactful, and so it was for me. And you know, I've never been a talented guy or anything. I'm not really good at anything in specific, but I always liked to read books, and I always loved language. I've spoken English pretty much the way I do now since I was about 12 or 13. And by then I was also taking Spanish and French, and I started picking up Japanese in my spare time. I started going to like weekend courses, and I wanted to try and learn the language. But then that just remained like a big hobby of mine. I kept watching anime and stuff for like until I was about, I think, maybe 17. And it was such a big thing for me. I would spend like literally hours every day watching entire series. And so I probably ended up watching hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of anime. And I mean, I don't know how it works these days, because I don't watch like anime, and I'm not into manga or stuff anymore. But back then, what would happen is like an episode would come out in Japan, and then it would be translated and have subtitles put on it by some sort of fan somewhere, and then you would be able to like watch that or download it, and then you could watch it. But it took a long while for that subtitled version to come out, and so you would have to wait. But I was watching, say for example, back in those days, I was watching some sort of, you know, maybe Naruto would be a good example, and they were like in a big fight, and I figured there's not going to be much talking this episode. What if I just download the version without the English subtitles, and I just watch it in Japanese? I could probably like understand what's going on if they're not talking much just from the visuals, and then that would allow me to watch the episode a couple of days earlier. So I tried that, and it turned out, just because I've been watching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of anime during my teen years, I basically understood what they were talking about. Like the language, it's kind of weird because I'd never studied the language really. I had some weekend courses on Saturdays where I learned like basic writing. But when the characters were talking, I was suddenly aware of what they were trying to say. It was kind of weird, but it was just because I'd seen, you know, a phrase in Japanese being said in a certain context within like a movie or an anime, and then I'd seen that so many times that I was like, okay, in this kind of context, in this kind of situation, this kind of phrase and this kind of word is used, and so the meaning sort of started translating for me. And after that, I just started trying to watch anime exclusively without subtitles, and I sort of learned the language, or I had my introduction to the language simply listening to it and trying to repeat what I heard. But then that, you know, I grew out of like anime and video games. I was always playing, you know, stuff on my PC. I was into World of Warcraft and stuff, but I went to university when I was about 18, and, you know, it was that time of your life when you're trying to grow up, dress better, you know, work out, be serious about your education, about getting a job, you know, taking care of the way you look, trying to establish more of a social circle. I had my first very serious like relationship with a girlfriend, and so those parts of my life sort of fell out. I went to university and I started studying economics, which, like, looking back, was ridiculous, because the thing I am least interested in as a person in the world is money. Like, I don't care about money. I honestly think, I mean, I don't want to be sound offensive to anybody who might be struggling with the fact that they have limited access to money, but I think, you know, if you have enough that you can sort of live I mean, this is such a cliched thing to say, but the relationship between money and happiness, that relative balance, is so ridiculously a myth. Like money just simply does not make you happy, and I was not interested in becoming an entrepreneur or working in economics or anything. I just wanted to study something, serious and real and have a good job, and I was in that kind of like very typical sort of mindset for that age, I guess. But what happened when I started studying economics is, again, I started to slip into a little bit of a depression, because I realized a lot about how companies and banks and the world works. I had that kind of like, waking up moment that a lot of people have at that age, when they learn about the military-industrial complex, when they learn about, all those things, and they become kind of like a hippie. But it was fun, because there were basically two kinds of people studying at my university. There were the people who got really into business. A lot of them are running, just a couple of years later, major businesses that they've started on their own at this point, and they're super successful. Like, a lot of my classmates are very high up positions at major companies all over the world. So kudos to them, that's great. But there was another group of us who basically felt that we did not fit in, and that we felt a little bit weird about the whole thing and kind of scared. And so we sort of banded together and started hanging out late at night, playing video games, talking about life. And it was kind of that time in the internet age, where it's something really cool that's been going on over the last decade, where it's like the advent of a lot of podcasting, the psychedelic revolution, where people talk a lot about using psychedelics or meditation to achieve some sort of spiritual awakening. And then there was a lot of stuff coming out at the time about new discoveries in quantum physics, and how the universe works. And all of this stuff, the more we got into it, and the more we sort of tried to adopt and live in that kind of culture and mindset, concepts like money and companies and marriage and mortgages just seemed more and more kind of ridiculous to us. And I think a lot of us just felt more and more lost. But the bonds of friendship that I established during that time in my life were the most important I've ever had. And that was also, interestingly, the first time as an adult I ever played Tekken, because we used to go to my friend's house, and he had Tekken 5 FR, like an old version, on his PlayStation 3, I think it was, back in that day. And we started playing that for fun while just hanging out. And we established a little bit of a competitive rivalry as friends. And that's when I started getting serious about learning Tekken. And then many years later, I'm a competitive player making Tekken educational content for YouTube in Tekken 7. So that was the sort of the start of my Tekken career, so to speak. This is getting to be way too detailed and way too long. But what I'm trying to say is I eventually got a good job. I was working in finance. I was making quite a bit of money, but I was very unhappy, and a lot of my friends from university were feeling kind of lost and unhappy as well. And I had this old childhood dream, from back in my younger days, when I was watching a lot of anime, that I was one day going to go to Japan, and I was going to explore this country, and I was going to get really good at the language and everything. And one day, I don't know what it was that changed, but I was I'm listening to all these podcasters, and I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm talking so much to my friends about money doesn't matter, careers don't matter, marriage is monogamy is a weird thing, and you should just do what you love, and you should just try and explore your dreams and whatever. But here I was really not doing it. So I was just okay, enough. I'm going to try and go back to who I feel I really am, and who I was before all of this becoming adult and becoming a serious person thing. When I was a young silly child, and I just had hobbies, and I didn't think about that stuff too much, and I'm going to try and explore that aspect of myself. And I decided I wanted to try and go to Japan. At that time, one of my closest friends, he was still struggling with getting through university, and he felt like it was pretty much pointless. He wasn't making a lot of headway with it. And another one of my closest friends had just gotten fired from what he believed to be a dream job. He just gotten hired by a big firm. There was a lot of drama. He had a superior who was basically a crazy person, and he ended up being let go. And so I said, I'm going to go. I'm just going to leave everything behind, and I'm going to go. I'm going to take whatever money I have, and I'm just going to pack one suitcase. I'm going to leave this country. I don't think I'll be back. And the two of them were just okay, we're with you. We're going to do it together. Japan, arbitrary choice, whatever. We just need to go far away and do something completely different and see what happens. And so that's when we came here. We applied for a normal Japanese language school, which is the way people usually come here as students, and we got student visas, and we started studying the language full time. You know, just a couple of hours a day at school. We got nice little apartments in the area, and we just spent our days and our nights having fun, going to the beach, learning about this country, making friends, meeting girls. We started dating. We had just like the most insane adventure. And those early days in Japan of being a student here and just hanging out with my friends, I think probably gonna end up being for the rest of my life the happiest I've ever been. Like, it was amazing. Now they've gone on, my friends. One guy fell in love with a Southeast Asian girl. He ended up moving away to another country, and now he's running a chain of restaurants in that country, and he's gotten married, and he's living a super cool life. Another guy ended up, you know, not really finding what he was looking for, so he went on. He's living in Australia with a couple of friends we made here in Japan right now. And he's probably, you know, having the amazing, like, laid-back surfer lifestyle kind of life down there. I ended up, you know, in a pretty serious relationship with a Japanese woman. I ended up learning how to speak the language pretty much fluently, and so I just thought I'd get a job and stick around and see what happens. And so that's why I'm still here in Japan. But I've said in my previous videos that I felt that I wanted to do something new and creative, which is why I started this YouTube channel, and that is because, you know, a lot of the friends I came here with, a lot of the fun and life that we had together in this country has sort of gone now that a lot of people have started moving away. A lot of the friends and people I hang out with here in Japan right now are Japanese people that I met here. So I don't get to speak a lot of English, and I don't get to like do you know, a lot of like messing around and playing around. You know, I have a job right now, but I just wanted to do something fun and creative. I wanted to use language, I wanted to write scripts, I want to talk about Tekken, because Tekken is like the major hobby of mine, the main thing I do in my spare time. And so that's why I started this YouTube channel. By the way, my Japanese girlfriend, you know, she's the light of my life. I love her to death, and she's about to move away as well. She's gotten accepted into a very good school abroad, so she's not going to be around for the next year or so. And that's another reason I felt I needed to do something like, you know, YouTube or whatever, or try and write a book, or maybe like travel. I need to just to do something to occupy my mind while I hopefully wait for her to come back, and so that we can maybe, you know, look at what we want to do with the next step in our relationship. But that's, you know, getting way too detailed about, you know, private stuff, so whatever, that's not interesting. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now. One thing I want to talk about, like, if you want to like move to Japan, if that's a dream you have, or like any kind of thing, this is the thing, right? It doesn't matter if it's Japan or whether it's, you know, pursuing a career in artistry, or whether or not it's, you know, it can be really whatever. If you're in a position in your life, if you happen to be one of those people who, you know, you feel young and a little bit lost, and you feel a little bit like you're disappointed in what life turned out to be, I think a lot of like stress and a lot of that anxiety actually comes from, like, there's a person that you are and a person that you feel you are inside, and then there's a person that you're, you know, being forced to be by life, and the things that you have to do to be, you know, adult and serious. And that sort of discrepancy between who you feel you are and who you are having to be every day can end up becoming extremely tough for a lot of people. And I think that's where a lot of like my emotional stress came from. And if that's where you are, and if that's what you are like experiencing, my advice would just be, whatever it is you feel like you have to do, just do it. Drop whatever you have. Hopefully you have a structure of people around you in the shape of family and friends who, if you sit down and really explain to them that, you know, I feel like I am maybe wasting my life with what I'm doing right now, and I just want to do something radically different that's going to sound very risky and that's going to sound very weird to you, or maybe like not constructive, but I feel like I have to do it to like be a person. Do that. And whether it's, you know, quitting school, or whether it's quitting your job, or whether it's, you know, divorcing your wife. I mean, it can be anything. I've had a lot of friends who've had that experience as well. They ended up in a marriage way too early. They feel trapped inside that marriage, and they don't really know what to do about that. They're like, okay, so I guess I have to like spend the next 60 years of my life with this person who I don't really love on a deep sort of spiritual level, but because I made a mistake when I was young and confused, and I ended up in this, I have to sort of keep paying for that with the rest of my time, and I think that's very sad as well. What was the other thing I really wanted to talk about? I mean, obviously, I'm just like in my 20s. I'm not some sort of like teacher. I don't know anything about life. I'm as confused and as, you know, stupid as I ever was. So obviously, you don't have to listen to this. If I look at statistics on my channel, most of the people who watch my videos are exactly the same age range that I am. So you probably don't need me to teach you anything. But do whatever it is you feel that you do. And I think a lot of yeah, this is the thing I wanted to say. I think another very stressful situation, especially for people like in the West right now, is maybe you don't have anything that you feel you need to do. Maybe you don't have a hidden talent that you want to explore. Maybe you don't have a country that you would like to move to and learn about. Maybe you don't have a new language that you would like to learn, but you still have these feelings of being lost. What do you do then? Like, you feel like a blank slate and you don't really have a road a path to walk down. And I think in those cases, it's really extremely arbitrary. You just need to do something new. And I think if you want to make like a kind of like a journey through consciousness, and a journey, you know, that can be very like spiritual and fulfilling to you, making a geographical journey to start off usually helps a lot. So, you know, think about, can be anything. Maybe you like thought that once, you know, a long time ago, that it would be cool to like explore South America and check out Brazil. Maybe you need to go and do that. It literally can be anything, but for now I think you just need to do something radically different, and then through that experience you will probably learn a lot about yourself and learn a lot about what you need to do to sort of live in a more fulfilling life for yourself. Wow, that ended up being not at all what I wanted to talk about this video. This is going to be a video about what it's like living in Japan and getting a visa and stuff. So yeah, there's a little bit of a rant about a lot of life stuff. I don't know why. This is basically a vlog. It probably wasn't very interesting to listen to, but if you found any kind of enjoyment out of it, that would make me very happy. I think I'm probably going to end up uploading it anyway, because I don't care. I didn't say anything that I can't stand for, at least, so whatever. Let me know if you would like to learn some Japanese. Let me know if, you know, there's anything else you would like me to talk about on this channel. I mean, I just want this to be like a mirror for whatever you want to see, really, because it's much more for me about community and conversation than it is about me talking about myself or a video game or anything. But yeah, I'm probably gonna end up making another video that is more about like how do you go about it when you want to move to Japan? What's it like getting a visa? What is it like trying to learn this language? What is it like interacting with Japanese people for the first time? Because I mean, it's well known that this is a very unique and sort of weird country, but it's definitely not weird in the ways that you think, and it takes a long time to sort of scratch the surface off of what's odd about this culture. And then you have to make a choice whether or not you want to like integrate yourself with that, or whether you want to try and like stand your ground and be who you want to be and be an individual, or if you just want to like be part of the Japanese societal machinery. I'm definitely the former, and it's probably one of the reasons that I think one day I'm probably going to have to leave Japan behind. I love it. It is my home. It is where my friends and my loved ones live. It is where I work. But it is probably not where I will end up, you know, sort of settling, if I ever do end up settling. I mean, I have no plans in my life of, you know, settling down, getting, you know, a serious big job again, and maybe, you know, considering like marriage and children. I don't think that's something that's ever going to be for me. But yeah, I'm probably going to make another video where I talk more about like Japan as such. And it's obviously just going to be a lot of my opinions. So I mean, you can't just learn everything about a culture or a country of millions and millions of people from the perspective of like one pasty, confused white guy. So I mean, if you think it might be interesting, check out the next video. Thank you so much for watching this for now. I'm sorry it wasn't informative. I'm sorry it wasn't on Tekken or anything, but I have stuff coming for Tekken very, very soon. Thanks a lot for watching. I mean, I say it in every video, but I'm just going to keep on saying it. If it keeps going like this, like, I want to start doing YouTube as seriously as I possibly can, because it's another one of those things like I talked about earlier. I had a silly dream for many, many years that maybe I would try and make something for YouTube. Right now I'm just taking these first little steps, and it's very low quality production value wise. But there is a response, something is happening, somebody's watching, and it's super exciting. So I can't thank you guys enough for all the support you've given me, and I hope you don't end up hating this video because it's just kind of me blurting out a lot of bullshit about whatever. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.